Okay, hello, friends. It is Tim, Kirby Russia. I kind of want to talk to you guys because I'm going to have to stay up all night working tonight, probably for many, many hours just to wake up, and I have a morning meeting. So today is going to be a living hell. So I thought that this would be the perfect time to address some questions about the American Village and do a little Q&A because I think I did a really, really bad job of sort of explaining myself about certain things. So for those of you who are actually sort of regulars and have been interested in the concept of the American villages and all that, one big thing. On Monday, so far it's going to be Monday, we're going to go back to the governor's office after they put together the big legal project, and there's going to be some other meeting about that. So I'm not super sure what that's going to be about, but hopefully it is going to be a good thing. Hopefully it means that they're going to at least be able to provide finally the most important thing for people who want to do the American Village thing is a timeline. That's kind of what I've been really pushing them, like timeline. What are we going to do when? Timeline. So I'm really hoping on Monday that when I go all the way out there, because ironically, because the Moscow region, which is around Moscow, has a really goofy shape. Getting that state capitol building is quite an adventure. I'll tell you that much. So on Monday, I'm going to have to do that adventure, and hopefully I'll have some big, exciting news, or by news, I mean a timeline of what is going to happen going forward. Now, I got a pretty lengthy criticism of the project, or this person is trying to tell me that's not a criticism, but they're reasonable questions. That's to each his own. But there's some questions about the project from an extremely skeptical view, which we're going to talk about right now. So anyways, I know you guys can't see it, and I've been told, and I've told people myself, that reading a lot is not very good. So we're going to break this down into paragraphs. Reading on the radio or reading in some sort of podcast. So anyways, let's talk about this. He goes, yeah, I think people need to rethink moving to Russia. I can't think of anything more insane than purchasing property in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by only people of my own kind, with no chance of integrating and no way to make a living aside from methods that are either minimum wage, teaching English, or totally non-viable, homesteading. Okay, that is a whole big thing there. Okay, so the one thing is too about this is with the American Villages project. First off, the land itself is donated. So if we don't build any houses and people just want to build their own house, well, the cost of that house and however that gets done, that's on them. The land really shouldn't cost anything. I mean, there have been some fees involving this, but overall the land should be pretty much, zero. What's it going to cost for some of the electricity and all that other stuff? That I don't know. But as far as it stands today, one of the reasons why we want to do a housing project is because it'll actually give you a built place to live. And having a place to live is part of that immigration process, because when you have nowhere to live, you can't immigrate here. Why? Because you have to prove to the migration services that you have no transmittable diseases, at some point, knowledge of the Russian language, that you have some money in the bank or some form of income, and that you have a place to live, being an address. And there's something else that I forgot. What? Well, that you have no criminal background in your own country. So you should have an apostilled criminal background check before you come here, but we'll get to that later. That's why I need the timeline. Anyways, there's a lot of things that people need in order to immigrate to Russia, and one of them is an actual residence. Now, the problem is that if we do the American Village, which we still will do, even if the whole building house thing completely falls apart, we'll do it, is if you get the sort of piece of land, which, like I said, should cost nothing, or at least way, way, way under market price. What are you going to do? Because you can't register yourself there. You have nowhere to live. One of the hardest things, actually, about moving to Russia is, again, if you are, say, a family from the West and you come to Russia. Well, first off, you can't immigrate here at all, because to immigrate from the West to Russia, you basically have to be married to a Russian citizen. If you're already married and have kids and you're happy in that marriage and you're going to stick it out, then guess what? Guess what? You're not immigrating here. And another thing that could happen is, say you marry someone and they don't own property where you're living. That's a good example for Moscow. Lots of people are living in Moscow. You meet this wonderful bride, but she is from some other place. Guess what? Then you can't immigrate to Moscow. You'd have to go and move to where she's from, or at least trick the government into thinking that you're there. So that's another reason why we have this sort of American Village, and why the houses would be an advantage, because as soon as you have a house, then you have that address. Because trust me, I'm sure if you ask Russians who've had registration problems in the past or nowhere to register themselves, it is quite an ordeal. quite an ordeal. So there's a certain logic to it that exists if you're calm and patient enough. So again, integrating to a place where there's only your kind. Well, first off, there are some dacha communities that will actually border the village where there are Russians. So that's the first part. The second part is that there's actually a monastery nearby as well, and we want to have communication and integration and good relationship with that monastery. Secondly, all children in Russia have to, learn Russian in some way. So even if we set up like a homeschooling community, we'll probably have to try to get maybe some local teachers to come out. Basically, there is no isolation. This place, or at least for this American village, who knows what the future holds, but for this American village, if you hop on a train, Serpukhov is 70 kilometers from Moscow, the border of Moscow, the biggest, most wealthy, most job-filled city in Russia. And also after COVID, working from home has become extremely popular. So I don't quite know what this, moving to the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's kind of the middle of nowhere in the sense that everything around it is really beautiful and pretty and all that. But it's not the middle of nowhere in the sense of being like in central Montana or let me try to think from a British standpoint. Those islands above Scotland, up there? That's pretty isolated. So it's not like that. It's more like being in the last nice looking field around within driving distance of London or something like that. Or I always say Poughkeepsie, New York is a good equivalent. So, you know what I mean? That's a huge, so that's sort of a huge misnomer. Now people are writing me from work and they're angry at me, but they'll have to wait. I keep seeing the messages pop up. Oh, well, sorry guys, you'll have to wait. So anyways, again, there's no one forcing people to not integrate or integrate. And another thing is too, is again, why have all these people together? Because it's a fun project that the government would approve of. Because if I went to, I was just trying to tell this person, if I went to the fucking mayor of Moscow and I go, look, how about you let hundreds of Western people into the city because I said so, because it would be nice to do? The answer will be, go eat shit. Maybe formulated in a very official way. Well, the answer, what it actually will be, it would be the same thing that all the Russian embassies answer to people when they inquire about immigration. They explain to them how to file for temporary residency, but they don't explain that no one qualifies for it, that it's a pretty much 100% rejection rate. If you in Kansas, no, let's go somewhere else. Perth, there we go. We're going to go to Australia. Perth, Australia right now. You fill out this residency permit and you do everything the way they ask. And you send it all to them, or I don't know, you're supposed to do it in person, but you take it and you come to Russia and you just sort of come here and you give them everything that they want in theory, written in Russian and all that stuff. Your chance of immigrating here is 0%. Zero. Because the quotas are so tiny that little amount of people who can get in here without having to be married to a Russian citizen is factually zero. Okay? Zero. So that's another reason why we have this project, because it's a project that myself and Father Joseph Gleason, who we came up with the project together. So it's a two-man idea. And the idea was to sort of, get government support for this and sort of also put this into sort of one, a package that they'd be excited about. Because I know what gets people in the Russian government excited. They get excited about the idea of maybe one day having some sort of Silicon Valley here. They started something with Skolkovo. There's some successes, some failures, but they definitely like to sort of we should give them a model. Same thing with Russian businessmen. They don't want to hear a new business idea. They want to hear a good idea of something that maybe already exists that's really, really tangible. And they're going to hear, okay, I give $1 million. I'll get back $1.5 million in 6 months. That's a project I want in on. So you have to give people something, especially the Russian mentality, the sort of government mentality. You got to give people something concrete and specific. And when I was able to organize and make the deal about getting land donated, first off, I didn't have a choice. Okay? It wasn't like I had a choice. First off, although the land is everything that I'd ever want for and more out of a piece of land. So I didn't have a choice, but I actually got ideally what I think would be perfect. I lucked out. But let's just say hypothetically again, we went back to Moscow and we were like, okay, we for some reason want to keep this sort of a close-knit community. Okay, so Mayor of Moscow, how about this? How about you donate the some sort of area where they're going to knock down a building and we'll build a new high-rise and it'll be all for Western people? The answer would be 2 middle fingers right in my face. Okay? However, the idea of creating this sort of village where, if there's all foreign people and maybe it's going to be in like an English-speaking village or like sub-region of Russia, well, that's exciting. And that got a lot of people excited. And especially because the northern village is operational. There are people up there. I just saw even Father Joseph had like a list of all the people who are sort of up there generally in that sort of like Yaroslavskaya region area. And it's really opened the doors to the government there. They're saying, oh, yeah, Western people do want to move here. And so like sort of their skepticism bar of just saying no to anyone who is applying, it's going down and down and down and down. Trust is going up and up and up and up. And not everyone, well, especially because that's more of an open-ended sort of homesteading thing. There's a ton of space up there between people, okay? So it's very, very different concept. All right. So anyways. Okay, so again, no chance of integrating, and that's up to you because you cannot live in isolation. There is no way in Russia, especially now, there really isn't. There's no way to live in isolation really anymore in the 21st century, especially like with your kids, like I said, because they have to learn Russian in school. You are going to be surrounded by things. You can't avoid the metric system. That's for sure. I've tried. You can't. So yeah. Anyways. So the next point, I think I covered the first point there. If you guys have questions, just write anywhere in the under that little picture that I said that the live stream starting in 15 minutes, and I'll see them eventually. Point number 2 that this guy made is then when you move back to the States a couple of years later after begging your parents for the airfare with no savings, guess what? What happens to those houses in the villages? I'm going to guess they revert back to someone. I wonder who. Well, I don't have ownership of them. The land is donated, but I don't have private property ownership of the land. I'll have private property ownership of a plot for myself and a plot for my parents and a plot for an American football field. Everything else is going to belong to everyone else. Okay? So that's going to be private property, and when you get citizenship, that property gets transferred over to you. So there you go. However, if we don't have houses, as soon as you get citizenship, then you immediately take control of the land and it's yours. And another thing about this being like some sort of ghetto is if someone understood Russian law, they would know that with Russian law, you cannot actually sign away your rights. There is no way to make sure that all the foreign people who come here and take the land as part of the program don't sell it to some Russian person in 5 or 10 years. Okay, like I've mentioned that before because I have to be completely honest. Because someone's like, Tim, what's the mechanism? How are you going to keep this the American village? There's no legal way to do it. Okay, because once it's yours, it's yours. But you can't. You can only rent the land for a pittance. It'll probably be, I don't know, $10 a year or something, whatever the government says. Maybe 40 if it's big. Until you get citizenship, because otherwise you can't possess it. You don't have the right to. As a foreigner. So that's something you'll have to wait for, but you get citizenship, you'll get it. So there you go. And just like a problem, what if you go bankrupt in the States and you have a house on your property? You would deal with it in the same way. So there you go. And also, there's no guarantee there'll be any houses at all. So that's another thing. And again, this assumption that no one can be able to find a job if they're like far away from the city, and that's just that's just so nuts because I know a lot of people who make a lot of money sitting in a room with a computer and high-speed internet, and they do really well for themselves. So again, it's just a sort of weird decision because another thing I've told you guys before, salaries suck in Russia. So that's one thing I guess you should want to be aware of. But everybody's got to work somehow. So, and also having Americans might actually raise the salary. Anyways, I'm still hoping there's a sanely move to Russia with a way to both integrate and make a living. I'll be visiting soon as a tourist, so we'll see what that brings. Yeah, come here, see how it looks. This is what I told the guy in the chat. Come here, see how it looks. And if you want to move here in a sane way, knock up a Russian chick, get married, and then file for temporary residency. And you can go through the temporary residency process the way I've described a million times on this channel, and it will be amazing. It will be sane, as you say, and you can move wherever you want. You can, pending you can get a chick knocked up who lives in Moscow and owns real estate here. Pending you can do that. So you got to aim high. You got to get on that Tinder. Got to aim high for these chicks. Get your abs in order. Something I cannot do. Get good pictures. Get good at selling them the image that they want from men, and get that chick from Moscow knocked up. So, and you will be all set to live in Moscow proper. But if you meet someone and they are from Irkutsk, and they have only an Irkutsk registration, enjoy the woods. So, Tim literally said that foreigners moving to Moscow would get the boot, and the villages were the only way. They are the only way if you are already married to someone or not married to a Russian citizen. They are. If you could find another program for Western foreigners to come here, I'd like to see it. Does it exist? I don't think it does. Maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just missing out on something. But good luck with that. Good luck with trying to find some sort of immigration program that isn't part of this. And it only exists because 2 Western foreigners who got citizenship here decided that they want to bring in other people too. It's only because of us 2 guys. So I'm still confused. Why is the Russian government cool with immigration, but only to these villages? They are not cool with immigration. If any of you guys who are watching right now are people who've come from the West and gone through the immigration process, you will see the Russian government is not cool with immigration. It is the most brutal process I have ever been through in my life. The process of getting this temporary residency, permanent residency twice, then citizenship. Citizenship was a little bit easier because I already talked to the right people. I'll put it this way. And I filed through with the help of 2 individuals. That's Anatoly Wasserman and Margarita Simonyan helped out with that process. They kind of saved my butt, those 2 people, because that was back when you couldn't have dual citizenship. But anyways, those other 3 instances, it was a living nightmare. And you will hear that from pretty much anyone who's a Western foreigner who's gone through this process. And maybe some Russians, too, have gone through the process. It is an absolute nightmare. If you were to say, based on what you have to do to live here, if you could make an argument that the Russian government wants immigrants, I would really debate that. Because I think the way the laws are makes it seem as though there's not. Like, there's no green card lottery. So, for example, in America, I believe they give away 50,000 places to sort of a random spattering of people across the globe to move to America, like 50,000, or is it even more? I want to say 50,000, but I could be wrong. But anyways, there's this thing where they just sort of give away the opportunity to start living in America to a significant number of people every year just for the heck of it. That doesn't exist here. In America, if you could somehow kind of just be there long enough, I forget what it is. But there's something where if you're like kind of there long enough as a resident, was it like if you're not married, but if you're there for like 5 years, you could just sort of apply for residency? Here, no. You could work in a Russian company, no problem, for 5 years, and you got nothing. Your status and ability to immigrate here is no different from the day you came. Now, there is the highly qualified specialist program, but that's very specific. And I've actually met 2 people who did it, and it was not easy. It was not easy. And for the one of them, it was actually very expensive because he sort of had to create a corporation to pay himself as a highly paid specialist, and he said he lost a lot of money on it. Okay? The other one, she just had the problem of it was incredibly difficult paperwork-wise to convince the government that what she's doing, which was English teaching, is what they're actually asking for in that program, which sounds insane because it is. Because the program, the government is very negative. They're very anti-immigration. If they were positive, they would have said, oh, you're an English teacher. That's on the list. Teacher's on the list. Sweet. You're in. No, for her, it was this whole rigmarole of having to like change all these documents from her employer. So again, the Russian government does not want immigrants here overall, for the most part. If you look at the way the system works, systematically, no. I'm still confused. Why is the Russian government cool with immigration? If the Russian government truly wanted to take in Christian refugees, wouldn't they just let them live wherever they wanted? Because they're not. They're not interested at all. They are. If you want to talk about letting refugees in, the people from like Ukraine can come here. You're from Ukraine, you're pro-Russian, jump the border, you're in. If you're from one of the states that Russia took over, boom. You get your passport like that, money in the bank, no problem. That's when the government shows that they want someone here. For Christian refugees from the West, nope, that doesn't exist. if someone can explain this to me, I'd appreciate it. I originally got the impression that this was because Russia wanted people to populate remote areas, which makes sense in a way. But if this village is within commuting distance from Moscow, then that theory is out the window. The Russian government I don't even know if it's still around, or that I'm not sure. But they gave away a lot of hectares in the Far East. Well, I've heard some success stories. But that was just Russian citizens. They didn't give shit to foreign people. That's for sure. Nothing. Okay, so that's a big difference right there. That's a big difference between wanting to populate the East and wanting to give something to foreign people. You know what I mean? So, and that was just a program to kind of help out with, giving some land in these remote regions. But again, if they really want to help out people, what do? You generate business. Vladivostok is exploding. There's plenty of stuff to do there. You want to get people to live somewhere in the middle of nowhere? I don't know, put a LNG field out there. If you can. There'll be plenty of people who want to live there. Like, what does the Russian government get out of a family moving to a village, which they wouldn't get if the same family moved to Moscow or St. Petersburg? Well, that family wouldn't move to Moscow or St. Petersburg at all, because it's not possible. And this isn't so much what they get. I think what they get is they get a neat project that's, for them, that's neat and cool and exciting because they have sort of a governmental look at this. It's like, wow, we built a small city. That's cool. And it's got this cool concept behind it. That's awesome. We like this. This is something we can sort of hang our hat on. And every person who's involved can say, hey, that's a little village thing. Look at that. There's people there. There's over 100 of families of foreign people came to Russia all together. Wow, look at that. I can put my hat on that. I said I was part of that process. That's awesome. Just asking like the mayor of Moscow, let Westerners live here. No. No. Especially when there's no filter. There's no one to help them out. Nothing. It's nice to have a nice kind of curator figure involved. So, anyways, I got through that. I'm sorry, I started swearing at this guy in the chat, but I'm pissed off today. So it's a real fucking humdinger of a day for Tim. So I kind of lost my cool there. Maybe I should apologize, but I'm so angry I don't want to. So, anyways, guys, those are some sort of aspects of the American village that just, I guess, people just sort of didn't. At least one person just sort of didn't get. But, anyways. Let's see. Is there anything else to sort of talk about here? Not so much. Anyways, okay. So I guess I kind of covered that. Do we have any questions from the actual chat itself? Ooh. Anyone? It is here. How far will the village be from the MCOD? 70 kilometers from the MCOD highway. Well, directly from the MCOD highway is the city of Serpukhov, and then it's another, was it 10 or 15? Basically, hour and a half to MCOD. But then again, they're going to have more and more express trains going from the Moscow, Podolsk, Chekhov, Serpukhov, Tula direction in the future. So there might even be some options to sort of get there in an hour. So it's not crazy far. Not crazy far at all, which is another reason why this is a huge boon. It is this absolutely beautiful, untouched place that's also someone has access to the city, which is amazing. So someone wants to talk. Oh, Exiled Canadian Patriot. Oh my God, Exiled Canadian Patriot. Are you full of rage like I am today?
How you doing?
Oh, to be honest, terrible. But anyways, I want to know how you're doing.
I'm doing good. I just caught the tail end of the chat here, but
yeah,
I just wanted to talk, Tim, about some of the ways of getting currency into Russia.
Oh boy!
And
okay,
if you had any kind of experience with that.
Okay, so that's a simple one. Let me mute you again, not because you're a bad person, but because there's an echo. So the first thing is that I have tried all sorts of stuff. I've heard all sorts of stories, and nothing works. No, I have not been able to get crypto into fiat. I have not. One person was for a while getting money from Kazakhstan. They shut that down because VTB Kazakhstan was able to send to VTB Russia, but somehow that got shut down. So I was just sent the other day a few options, and maybe I can find them. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Let's see. Let's scroll up. Scrolling up, did I save them in Telegram or was I an idiot and saved them somewhere else? Well, no. Well, it looks like option number 2 of me being an idiot. Oh, man, I swore I saved them on Telegram. Oh, man. Well, I screwed up. Anyways, unfortunately, they're not here, but some other people are saying that there are some kind of services or something. So far, dude, some people swear by Let's Russia. If you look for, I think it's called Let's Russia, that they can somehow get actually crypto reliably turned into fiat cash here. But again, I can't confirm that from my own personal experience. The only thing I do know is that you can bring $10,000 in cash from the United States. And that's kind of depressing, dude, but that's the way it is. And in fact, that is definitely one thing that's going to be hard going forward, is that a lot of people really can't transfer wealth here in a simple way. What I'm going to do in the future, maybe not tomorrow or the day after, but one thing that I definitely need to do is to talk to these people at Let's Russia, and maybe we can form some kind of partnership, and I can sort of be a guinea pig test, because I think I have like 50 euros in some kind of crypto somewhere, and I can see if they can at least get me my 50 euros. And I think that if they can do that, then we can start to maybe talk about, okay, slowly but surely trying to make a deal. There was some other site that also promises that they can do that they can get any crypto to fiat immediately. But again, I don't know. So far, not so good. So it's a bad situation. But I think we've talked about that a few times here. So anyways, guys, sorry for my extreme negativity today, but today has been one of those days. Oh, my God. Does anyone else have their hand raised? Not a lot. Okay, Sam wants to speak. Hello, Sam. What's going on?
Hey, Tim. What do you think about if the United States of Anthony Blinken gets his way? Anthony Blinken. If he come over here, Anthony. If he gets his way and the United States labels Russia a terrorist sponsoring nation, would that put a fly in the ointment on this, or the American Villages thing, or?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting one. All right. So let me talk about that. Well, first thing is, when the Europeans did it, they actually sort of changed the wording so they could sort of say it's a terrorist state, but it's not. So the question is, a lot of it is to do with the wording. But again, it's one of these things where I believe Iran is a state-sponsored, sort of nation of terrorism. But, you could fly there if you wanted to. So I don't really know, but I do know one thing that someone sort of pointed out also in the chat in a message that kind of made me slightly salty. I wonder if I saved it, because I'm in the mood for salt, baby. Salty mood. Did I save it? Oh, I did. Oh my gosh. So we have another message that's highly critical of this to break down. So we'll get to her message after this. But one of the things is that even if America does or doesn't declare Russia a state sponsor of terrorism, coming here means that you've put down a sort of what's that called? A bet. But a bet sounds weak. Bet is such a weak sounding word. You've put all your chips down. Okay, you've really sort of put a lot of chips down on Russia. And even when I came here many years ago, I knew that there would come a day where I'd never be able to go back, and that day came. Okay, and if you are going to do the same thing, you kind of have to go hardcore. That's another reason why you should really try just visiting Russia in the beginning. Kind of feel it out. And not feel it out for like 2 days, but I mean, maybe for like a month. They say that after 2 weeks, a sort of honeymoon phase in your mind goes away and you start living in a place. You're not visiting there, you're like living in it. So I really recommend coming here if you can. Obviously, not everyone can. Not everyone has those kind of resources or those kind of employers or whatever. But if you can, come here for a month. And also travel around, so you see like the city, you see the country, you see a small town, you kind of see a little bit of diversity, because people are different. I'll tell you one thing: people in Moscow are disappointing. So especially downtown. But so, anyways, I would really recommend you try it first, and then if you're like, wow, actually this confirmed everything, this is awesome, this is my future, then you have to be hardcore. Like, if you have to understand that, we're in Cold War 2.0. Maybe we're in soft World War 3. And you're going to go to the other side? Well, there's going to be pluses and there are going to be minuses. One of the minuses might be you might never be able to go back like me. So, there you go. Something to think about. Sam wants to continue here. Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you for that. Because the thing I'm considering is, definitely I'd want to come visit, but I'm in agriculture out here, and I was just thinking maybe I could do something like Justice Walker did in reverse, is I can sell my property to somebody, and then just pray that he could send funds to me little by little somehow.
Well, then again, that's why I'll try one thing. Oh God, what's a heck of an echo. Again, sorry, echo went crazy. That's another reason why I'm sorry, guys, but I guess I have to really try to push to make some sort of partnership with, maybe with Let's Russia or this other site, and it starts with a P, I can't remember, and at least try it out. At least see if they can get me my 50, which will become probably 45 euros, and we'll see if they can do that, because you might have to rely on friends. Now, from what I understand, I don't know this for sure. This isn't for sure. But because Justice Walker has a huge farm, and he came here as a non-citizen, okay, because he was involved in some sort of like Protestant mission work, I think, as like not even like a teenager, like when he was like 10 or 11, he came with like his parents. So like a preteen. And I think his wife she's American, but I think she also was here as like a preteen, and they sort of had that like weird connection. But anyways, that who he's married to and why doesn't matter too much. But so anyways, neither he nor his wife were citizens, okay, when they came here. That's what's important. And so I believe, but I could be wrong about this, but I believe he may have actually just sort of had to have a friend buy him an entire gigantic ranch, and he trusted that friend to give him to hand over the ranch when he got citizenship. And I guess he did. That's one hell of a friend. That's how you put friendships to the test, my friends. You put how many hectare ranch? 100, 200, 300? I don't know how many he owns. Minimum 100 hectare ranch in the hands of some guy that you kind of maybe met. I don't know. Maybe they're all part of the same church, or he knew this guy from like when he was a kid or something. But man, that's a lot of faith in people. But that's one of the things. And that's another reason with this whole like American like village thing, is it's the kind of, so people don't, like, he had that dream, but it's to kind of like softer, integrate people in a more softer way. I mean, you could, like I said, tomorrow, if you really were like gung-ho gorilla, I mean, I don't know, you could try to come tomorrow and on a tourist visa and try to disappear into Siberia and hope that maybe the powers that be will later on give you a place in the immigration quota or something. You could do that, but I don't know. So Justice's story is intense, but you should really try to talk to him about it, because I don't want to relay the information improperly. But I do know that he came here as a non-citizen, and he had to start his farm as a non-citizen, which means somebody else had to own it. All right. And that's another whole thing, too, with this. People are saying, like the one person who just wrote me this big criticism was like, you're going to go broke homesteading. Maybe you are. That's another thing with the American village, where we're going to have a bunch of hectares where people can sort of try homesteading. And if they like it in the little village farm that's, I don't know, will be 10 hectares or something, 7, 8, 9, 10, when they kind of get their feet wet and they're like, okay, we like farming, that's when I can buy it, and, like with what Justice probably had to do, go buy them a ton of land for real cheap in the Tulsky region, which is right next to us, and they could start hardcore farming if they kind of felt like they got their feet wet. That's another reason why we're doing this, is this sort of like jumping pad, So anyways, here's a sort of also critical message of the project. The person doesn't need to be named. I have 3 general questions for everyone preparing to move to Russia, as much as I wish you well. These 3 things give me a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. Perhaps Tim can address them. Okay, I will. The U.S. is at war with Russia. Do you really want to move to Russia as an immigrant from the enemy country? And again, I just said that is, yeah, you open the door for problems. But here's the thing I want to talk to you guys about. When people write to me privately, they tell me the following. The West has become satanic. I'm terrified to send my children to school because they're being filled with evil. We are being murdered by our own government thanks to shoddy. Let's see. I am being oppressed. If you're talking about Canada and Australia, I have been locked down, shoved in my home, oppressed this, that way, and the other way, again, related to this disease, not just in terms of having to get shoddy. Okay? I've heard, people have told me these horror stories about the condition of their life. Maybe even if Russia disappoints you a little bit, if these things you say to me are true, wouldn't you want to be here? Let's just say, because I trust me, I have met that Russia has a very extreme reaction on people. It's kind of like what is it? Those alkaline earth metals. You know, if they're in oil, in like a kind of oil, they don't explode. But as soon as you put that drop of water on it, kaboom! Oil and water have a very different effect on those alkaline earth metals. Okay. But in their pure form, obviously, because when they're combined with other stuff, they don't explode, or salt would explode in our mouths. But anyways, so it's kind of like that. And whether Russia is oil or water to you, that only kind of time will tell. Because I have met some Western people, they just come here and they're like, I knew it was home. I stepped off the plane, I knew I was home, and I'm going to be here forever, and they're still here. Some of those people are actually, I know one person here, woman, single, ultra-liberal, loves it here. Never going back. Strange. Okay, cool. Most of them are guys. But, all right. So that's one thing where, yeah, you could be one of these people who, like an alkaline earth metal, reacts with water, boom, you're here and you're like, I hate this. The question is, what if you find Russian people really annoying? What if you find Russia really frustrating? You never learn the language. But then again, you told me that you're being consumed by Satanism and you might be forced to murder yourself. That's what you guys tell me. So again, what that means is if you're sort of weighing, you're like, well, I don't know, what if I can't find a really good job in Russia? So essentially what you're saying is, yeah, in the West, okay, yeah, our society's evil. The government is trying to murder me and cull the herd for the future of the New World Order. But for now, it's really nice here, and it's kind of comfortable, and I don't know. So I think that means that some people who say these things out of their mouths don't actually believe it in their hearts. Like, they don't really, truly believe some of these conspiracy theories they're throwing at me, which are, well, half of them are conspiracy facts. All right? So it's kind of something to think about. Something to think about. You got to think this way. You got to think which would be better or which would be worse. So, for example, I do not like living in Thailand. I had to work there for a while, and it was brutal. My body is not designed for it. I've never been so sick in my life. Sick the entire time. Also, like the whole Thailand, there's these the tranny hookers everywhere. When you're a top boy, you want to feel like a foreign person, be a white guy in Thailand. You are just a walking wallet, and you are nothing more. So first off, you cannot integrate. You're very much segregated from people. It is not my homeland. My homeland is from the cold rivers of the Great North up here. So there's no connection to the homeland, different religion, different people. They really don't want you to integrate in their society. You know, you don't know what's going on. Language is completely different. Like I said, I was sick constantly, and the weather's brutal. It's hot and muggy at night. Like, it's like plus 35 Celsius during the day. Hot, muggy, the sun goes down, and it's still plus 35. It's just real tough. I mean, I can see why other people like it, but for me, Thailand was brutal. So here's the question. Went off on a tangent. Would I want to live the rest of my life in Thailand, which probably wouldn't be very long for how sick I was, or would I want to live in a society that's satanic? That's what you got to think. I would pick Thailand. I'd deal with it. Eventually I can figure out Thai. Or if you really believe, like, here's something with me, because I actually have a little bit of high blood pressure, and I'm kind of a nervous person. And whenever I see these reports about, like, blood clots, you know what they're caused by, or what people believe they're caused by. You know. And I think, if I wouldn't have left America, I'd probably have to become a welder or something like that. Yeah, I would have gotten it. That'd be filled with blood clots, and I'd already be dead. I think I made the right choice. That's something you've got to think about. Got to think about things in that sense. So if you really, really believe that you are being consumed by that, like, global battle for the future of the souls of humanity, as Alex Jones says, well, are you going to fight on that battlefield where it is, or are you going to retreat to higher ground, which is here? That's up to you. And for all the other people who are like, well, actually in Russia, people drink, and I don't know. You know, there are still plenty of people who are sinful and don't go to church. And okay, then where are you going to go? Going to go to China? You'll never be Chinese. That's for sure. You think it's hard to immigrate here? Try immigrating to China. Good luck. You know, are you going to go to India? Are you going to go to Pakistan? Are you going to go to Iran? Where are you going to go? The Iranians are very religious, by the way. Very pious. Very pious. They going to let you in, especially as an American? Where are you going to go? You feel you're in this satanic hellhole. You want freedom. Where is that? Where are you going to go to find it? That's the question. You don't maybe have to find it here. Maybe you can find it somewhere else. But think about it. Where are you going to find it? You know, people who are also religious, Africans. You're going to go live in Africa? It's up to you. Anyways, this person mentioned, so again, about being the enemy. Yeah, you could be part of the enemy team during a war. Because there's sort of a proxy war going on right now, proxy World War III between Russia and America. But again, is the government trying to murder you or not? That's for you to decide. Question number 2, what happens when Putin is no more? That's what everyone in Russia has been asking themselves for the last 10 years. Trust me, everyone wants to know. God only knows who will replace him. And that is true. Literally, you got it correct. God only knows. In Russia, that's always kept a secret. But you are gambling your future on Russia, not taking a turn back to an era of gulags. Well, let's just say, if we want to go into stupid land and talk about gulags, let's go with raw stupid. Russia considers that it began in the 9th century as being some sort of entity. So we're looking at 1,200, 1,200 years of Russian history. And the whole gulag punishment, brutal penal system that was really in its heyday lasted for 20-ish, 30-ish years. So if you want to do raw math, you have 30 out of over 1,000 in terms of years. So there you go. Roll the dice. That's number 1. Number 2. The gulags or any sort of penal system was a counter-revolution because there was a big revolution in Russia, and after every revolution follows a nasty, nasty counter-revolution. So, I don't know. So that's the thing. Do you want to gamble your future? Well, here's one thing. Does anyone know how to create a golden, guaranteed future for yourself in any country? Does anyone know? I sure don't. Maybe you do. I don't think anyone does, because life has no guarantees. We'd like it to. Trust me, all of us would like to wake up and know I'll be a good person today and a good person tomorrow and a good person to the best of my ability to the day I die, and everything should work out. Well, it doesn't. So that's it. Well, it's okay. It's sort of like, well, then what are you gambling? So we don't know, the future of Russia is uncertain after Putin. So you're gambling, what is the possibility of the rise of someone who's brutal and different coming to power in Russia? It's up to you. But again, if you're really that worried about something that could happen versus your current situation where you're living, the things that are happening. So you're waging a possible, a kind of medium, I would say low probability possible. Medium probability of something that could happen, but you're weighing that against the displeasure you might have with your life and your living situation that is happening. I don't know. 3, the winter days are extremely short and the winter nights are extremely long. Moscow is about the same latitude as the far north of Ireland, which is far north. Basically, that it's really, really dark in Russia in winter and the days are really short. That is true. If that drives you nuts, you will hate it here, or you'll have to move very far south or something. But again, What killed me was Thai weather. Thailand destroyed me. Here I'm fine. So it says there's a reason Sweden and Finland had long been notorious for high rates of depression and suicide. Well, that's your problem, isn't it? I mean, depression and suicide. And again, maybe it is related to the weather, and it can sort of bring people down. But essentially, what you're saying is you're going to be a victim of the fact that there's only 8 hours of really bright daylight during December in Moscow. You can't find joy in your life. You can't find a reason to live. This is another thing I've always found weird. But again, I'm a strange man who lives in the woods, guys. Strange man who lives in the woods. I've never understood this obsession with sunlight or this obsession with the sea. I just don't get it. But for some people, I guess it's really important. If the only thing that really brings you inner joy is sunlight, then I don't know. Maybe you should try looking into what it's like to live in Argentina or I don't know, Brazil's kind of questionable. Maybe you should try Thailand. Because to be honest, Thailand feels pretty safe. Pretty safe crime-wise. Again, you're going to have a real difficult time integrating there, but they're sort of used to non-Thai people being there. So it's not like people are going to be, you ain't from around here, boy. We're going to get you. There's not going to be any of that. Maybe you should. Maybe you should look into Thailand. Because there's sun every day. Because they're near the equator. So there's sort of no longer short days. There's just day. Excuse me. So she says, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. Oh, this is from a lady. Excuse me. Just floating a few things in reality-grounded person may want to take and consider. Yeah, I can feel that. Would it suck to move all the way to Russia, leaving all your roots and lifelong friends and extended family, relatives behind you, and then get there to discover that the short daylight hours drive you batshit insane? Well, anyways, let's take a look at your user photo. I will not show this. It's not going to come on the screen. You, madam? Well, you're definitely an adult, okay? She looks to be my age-ish, okay? She's not like 18. So, the thing is, at this point in your life, you should know that. Like for me, it's like I could come up with some sort of fantasy in my life. Like say tomorrow, they're like, oh my God, Tim, we're going to offer you this job in the middle of I say the middle. I picked a bad country to use the word middle. Of Malaysia. Oh my God, it's Malaysia. Everything's so pretty. There's a pretty beach. And I'll be like, well, how much is it? Because if it doesn't pay a ton of money, I'm not going there. Not that I have anything against Malaysians, but I know with this thing where that much sun and that much heat is just going to kill me. I also don't enjoy the sea, as I just mentioned. I don't go swimming or anything. So the beach is pointless. But as an adult, you should kind of already know, what's really important to you and what isn't, So it's a thing you need to think about. Okay, does cold weather drive you nuts? Does darkness drive you nuts? Then don't move here. You'll be miserable. But then also don't tell me that you want to come to Russia because you're fleeing the repression of Satan. Because if you're being repressed by Satan, who's trying to devour your soul, it shouldn't matter if it's dark or sunny or whatever here, okay? I don't know. Am I nuts here? Am I nuts? Should we, if you believe you're being chased by the armies of Satan to have your soul devoured and that, we're approaching an evil age, but escaping the evil age means it might be kind of dark in winter. I don't know. She continues on. As I said, trying not to be negative, but I get these strong feelings. Some people here, not everyone, but you probably know who you are, are thinking rashly and are being driven more by emotions than reasons. Well, myself included, I'm underscoring it. Well, all humans make mostly emotional decisions. I mean, I kind of had a feeling as a teenager that okay, I could see where society's going. I could kind of see things that we call today intersectionalism, wokeness. I saw all that being formed, but I didn't have terminology for it or words. I was just sort of wow, I am going to lose this battle. My white ass is done. Time to go back to the motherland. You know what I mean? So I kind of made some of my decisions based on feelings too. And everyone makes a decision based on feelings. In fact, that's the primary reason people make all decisions. if you talk to anyone who works in marketing. So feelings are wonderful? No. They're part of the way God made us? Yes. But emotions can leave a lot of wreckage if they're not directed by reason. Reason needs to be in the driver's seat. Yeah. And I would tell you guys to think this thing out. You know, anyone, even people who've already signed up for the American Villages thing, think this thing out. One thing I do know, which is very different from me, remember, weird motherfucker, bizarre asshole who lives in the woods. I don't need human interaction at all. And one of the things about the American Village that was another thing is that most of the people who, again, who sort of like write me, have written to me over the years, tell me about how one of the things that they're scared about moving to Russia is a lack of community with people who speak English. You know, that's one other thing about this village is this person who was writing me today with a million criticisms was sort of like, it's awful. You're going to create like this ghetto and everyone's going to be trapped. They're not going to integrate into society. But most of the people I know who are Western foreigners who want to move to Russia kind of want to find some sort of Western, like at the very least, some kind of expat community, but they're excited about this idea. And it's also one of the good things why you should really enjoy the American Village, because with me as the leader, it's not going to be like a homeowners association. I don't care what color your fence is. I don't care if your dog started barking at 1 a.m. Don't care. I don't want to have a conversation with anyone about anything. So you're going to have a lot of freedom because I don't care. All right. So the homeowners association is very generous in that sense. But that's a concern that most people who are excited about moving to Russia, especially connected to having a Christian faith, want to still be connected to people who speak English. Okay, they're the majority. Myself and this person who wrote to me today to rip me to pieces, we're the weirdos. We're the exception. Okay, so it kind of depends. It depends what's important to you, man. Depends what's important to you. What do you want to do? Got to think about this. If you're going to move to another country, you definitely want to think about what you're going to do. So, anyways, let's see. Did anyone write any messages, or have I just been blathering on? Oh my God, so few messages. People are watching. We have a good-sized audience, but no messages. That's not good. It's now called conspiracy theories are now called spoiler alerts. Oh my gosh, now that's a good message. Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm sharing that. That's brilliant. I'm just going to share that because who cares? It's my channel. That's amazing. That's now on the main channel. That's such a good comment. I remember in the Obama purge, the litmus test was whether they were willing to fire on Americans. Ooh, about the quality of generals in the United States. Oh boy. Well, let's see some other people there. This is the one guy who's sort of ripping my ideas together. Sorry for upsetting you so much. This has been a terrible week, and today was an absolute fecal day. I'm sorry. I know some of you people are more religious than I am. I actually feel that if there's a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I actually think that not swearing is very high on the Christian Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's other things that are much more basic that are a lot more important. So I let some nice bombs fly. So I really was swearing at this guy, but I'm still not sorry. It's just not that important. But anyway, still think the swearing was a bit much. I don't. And not very Christian. Not you to judge. He judges. And the church fathers and the saints. But I guess but ultimately he judges. But I guess some people swear more than I do. I won't hold it against you. Okay. Please don't hold my questions against me. No, I wanted to break them down and deal with them. But they were very, very snarky. Anything else? Okay, let's see. Does anyone want to chit-chat? Some regulars here. I know this, guys. Maybe I should ask while we're still here. Well, what are you guys concerned about? Well, if any of you are considering moving to Russia or something, is there something you're concerned about, something you're scared about? We're going to talk to Sam again, but guys, is there something you're really concerned or like, oh my God, what could happen? Oh, we have the Canadian Patriot is back. Wait, what? Are you here, Canadian Patriot? No? Yes? Maybe? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
I am.
Yeah, so is there something you're, again, concerned about moving here? What's like the number one thing that's like oh my God, what if the days are short?
I guess the number one thing, Tim, would how to pay for everything, because if we have trouble getting money in, it's that's the only issue that's holding me back. I'd be there tomorrow, but
all right.
The thing is, If it's 10,000 every time you come in, then that could help with the building, right? Because then you could make a deal with the builder and just say, look, I can only bring in so much and make payments or whatever, right? Like put on a schedule.
Yeah. And also because in Russia, you don't have to build everything at the same time. You can go in sort of like layers, like I mentioned before. And also, if we do this housing thing, it'll be on sort of a payment plan, going to mute you. But yeah, that is something to be concerned about. And it's one thing that's extremely frustrating because before the war, it was easy because all you had to do was wire money here from your bank. You could wire a fairly large amount of money from your bank to here. No problem. Well, we have to know what the future holds. Because in the future, if things sort of fall apart within Europe, especially, the whole game could be different. I don't know how they're doing it, but for some reason, intermediary countries are really being blocked still. I don't quite know how they do that. But yeah, that is a real concern, and I have to do my best then in the near future, probably after New Year's, because before New Year's, no one's really going to be ready to partner or do anything. I'm going to get a question for you, but after New Year's, I'm definitely going to have to talk to people like Let's Russia and get some sort of partnership going, because if we can't even do crypto, it is going to be really, really difficult. Hello, an American immigrant. That implies you're already here or you're already in America from Russia. Hello, American immigrant. Hello. No. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You actually have a nice microphone. Yes.
Tim, hi, it's Daniel from Moscow.
Oh, hi. Oh, hello. Yes.
How are you?
I know you quite well already. Okay.
No, just wanted to let you listeners know, this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity that you're doing, really, because I went through the process, man. I'm here 10 years, and it was bloody hell to get my permanent residency.
Yes.
I can't even tell you how many times I had to redo the FBI because they only give you 3 months. Things happened, and then Corona hit. But what you're doing, boy, I wish I had this opportunity. Really. But yeah, just wanted to let your listeners know I'm here 10 years. I'm from Long Island, New York. When I first moved here, I got my temporary residency, and it was nice because they had it in the city. I was able to do it inside the city. Mm-hmm. Now they moved the immigration center about an hour and a half drive from where I am.
The Sakharova Center. Yeah, get ready to do that hour. How many times you do that hour and a half drive? 10? 12?
Man, yeah, it's because, and let me tell you, it's like you mentioned before, for Ukrainian people and stuff, it's an easier process. Yeah. But they are strict because I met a guy from Ukraine who had to go 7 times. They kept finding issues and problems. It's not easy. Yeah. It's not an easy process. So
one thing that Daniel, I have to ask you, based on your experiences, would you say that the Russian government is pro-immigration or is more on the anti-immigration side?
It's pro-immigration depending on which country you're coming from.
Oh. Who are the preferred countries, in your opinion?
Well, I think if you're coming from, obviously Ukraine now, but if maybe like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, but if you're coming from the West, it's not easy. But I met my wife in upstate New York. She's Russian.
Yeah.
So I came here. I got my temporary permanent residency, temporary residency through being married. But then we left. We moved to Switzerland, so I had to give it up. And then I came back, and I was here on a 3-year visa. And I can't tell you how many times, just the process is very difficult. The paperwork, everything has to be perfect, and you only have 3 months. Mm-hmm. And I have 2 children. You're busy. Things happen. And now that they moved it down, it's an hour and a half one way. I can't even tell you how many trips
Yeah.
And then when you get there,
I believe it's actually farther from downtown Moscow than it is to go to Chekhov to visit me in the woods. I'm serious. Like, that's not even a joke.
So,
yeah.
Just for the people who are on the fence about this, if you want to come to Russia, this is the way, man. Because if you're not married to a Russian, and listen, my daughter was born in Moscow. My son was born in New York. I moved here with my son and my Russian wife. But what helped me is my daughter being born here, and with the new laws, I fast tracked to the permanent.
Oh, that's nice. So you could get a job like right away and all that stuff.
Oh, I have my IP. I have my own business.
Wow.
I have all the benefits of Russians, except I can't vote.
Here's something, not to get too personal. You might not want to answer this. You're free to decline. Your Fifth Amendment rights still apply. But the guy was sort of saying that, like, basically, if everyone just kind of comes and start living in this village, they'll never be able to survive. They'll never be able to make money. But you said you have an IP, which, for people who don't know, basically means you have your own individual entrepreneurship, your own personal business. So could you tell us about, like, how could someone, what is this thing? How are you surviving? Are you eating? Do you have food in your mouth?
Am I surviving? I'm telling you, I went from a life of living on, if anyone knows Long Island at the time when I'm born and raised there, but my wife and I had a house, North Fork, Long Island, probably the second or third most expensive place to live in the States. We worked and worked and worked. In Russia, in Moscow, I have a life. I have a life. I'm not working 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
I teach English. I have private students, I have corporate, and I have individual, and I have a school program at a public Russian school. So,
well, one thing is, do you know any foreign people who happen to not teach English? Because that's kind of what the one guy was saying. Everyone falls into the English teaching trap.
Well, that's the thing. When we moved here in 2012, we moved here through my wife. She was a vice president at a bank, an American bank, and they moved us here as expats. So, if you're coming to Russia, you're either coming as an expat through a corporation, or you're coming as a teacher, a translator. There's not much. If you're not working in a corporation, if you're just coming here, then it's going to be most likely a teaching job, a tutoring job, tutoring, teaching, or translating. I don't really know. Everyone that I meet in Moscow, they're either working as an expat in a corporation, or they're teaching. I don't really meet many people. I mean, I know one guy. He's an American. He's a barber. He cuts hair. He has his own business.
We know. Greg, baby. We'll have to have Greg on the show sometime.
So to be realistically, if you're coming here as a native English speaker, tons of work at tutoring, teaching, especially now with the situation, man, I cannot,
because everyone was forced out. That's the thing. It really was like, if you're not hardcore, you're gone. And you're apparently hardcore, so you're here.
Yes. Oh, I'm here. This is my life. Listen, I've had Russians tell me from when COVID started, why are you still here? I'm like, what do you mean? This is my home. My children, my daughter was born here.
And that's another thing. Why would COVID affect that? That's another weird thing about this.
This is a lot of mentality. When you have a U.S. passport, they don't understand why you're choosing to live here when I can live in America. Well, because I'm awake. I was awake 10 years ago. That's why when my son was born, I looked at my wife and I said, we need to move to Russia. I'm not raising my children here. Because I was awake back then. And what I've learned in the last 3 years, moving to Russia is probably one of the best decisions I've made, not only for my family and my children, but probably for myself.
All right. Well, thank you.
No. I just want your listeners to know that, guys, you got to jump on this, because I know Tim. And if anyone has any doubts, if you want to come here and live in a country that's family values, religion. You know, my children go to school. I can tell anyone has any questions, you can write to me. My children are not learning what they're learning in America. Yeah. And what they're learning in
you also what is you can't, although you're finding that in Moscow. My problem is I don't know, I've been hearing some stories from my daughter about things that have been going on in school. I don't know, I think maybe we have the wrong school. Parents there, I would say they're not like a lot of neglect. A lot of other kids besides my kids are kind of neglected. I'll put it that way.
Let me tell you, we have land in a village 90 kilometers from Moscow.
Oh, wow.
My wife is from the Urals. My wife is from near Yekaterinburg, Chelyabinsk, in between. Yeah. But her sister lives in Moscow Oblast with her family. We bought land there to be close to them. But let me tell you, it's a different world. 90 kilometers from Moscow. It's a different world. Infrastructure, schools, medical. So, you know, you're living a different life. Yeah. And my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, they teach English. They're Russians, but they're bilingual. They teach English. And what they're getting and what I'm getting, it's like, you know, except when I find them students that are in Moscow online, then they can get good prices. If you're teaching online, you can live anywhere.
And that's another thing. Yeah, the whole online factory. Thank you very much. That was extremely insightful. So someone else had their hand raised, but they vanished. That's not good. But anyways, if anyone else has some fears they have about moving to Russia, if they choose to express them, Sam is back. Sam, you got a number one fear. What terrifies you about moving to Russia then?
I'm afraid of KGB combined with CIA.
Okay. Well,
no, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm a carpenter. I'm just wondering, is there any ability to break through? I know they use the metric system there, but could I ever work as a carpenter there?
Okay. I can handle that one. So I'm actually, oh gosh, that echo. I'm sorry. I really liked how Daniel had no echo. It was like, sorry, Sam, be ready to maybe jump back in the conversation, okay? Have your finger be ready by the button there, because I'm going to let you back in probably, because I'm going to need you. But that echo is brutal. So anyways, the thing is that one of the problems, one thing that's definitely a benefit is, let's go and just say that we live in a vacuum where America is like it was. We have a very idyllic, super good America that's super constitutional, and gosh darn it, everyone's like in a Norman Rockwell painting. And then we have like an idyllic Russia where it's like an Eastern Orthodox propaganda movie. Everyone's very upright and moral, and so they're basically the same in terms of what you'd get by living there, this, that, and the other. In that sense, moving here to become a carpenter would be insane, because you'd lose so much money relatively. Even though people say carpenters are like the most underappreciated tradesmen for some reason, you're still here doing anything where you kind of work with your hands. Unless you do it for yourself, it's not going to work out too well. However, I do know some sort of more expert craftsman kind of guys, and maybe I could get you involved with that. One of the guys I play American football with is a professional carpenter, interestingly enough. So if you were like getting to the point where you're like, yeah, we are doing this, okay, or I forgot whether you sent me your passport for the American Village. It's hard to remember everyone's icons versus usernames versus real life names, and I just get sort of like confused. Okay, sorry. If you did, then one thing is we draw closer to a date where you might want to arrive. I'd definitely talk to my football buddy and be like, okay, you don't seem homeless, you don't seem impoverished. How do you do it, man? I also have one friend who lives kind of near me in Chekhov, like not super near me, and one of his good buddies is this like really high end luxury furniture carpenter. And I try to talk to him and be like, look, man, you need an assistant. So carpentry is a little bit harder, but it's possible. But if you're going to be like carpenter who just like works for somebody, like you just are at the job site, you work for somebody, the salary is going to be really disappointing, my friend. It is going to be very McDonald's-y, unfortunately. Okay. So a year thing, not too bad of a thing. Jim Jones wants to talk. Hello, Jim. Oh my God, that's one heck of an icon you have, Jim. That is a particular man in the KGB, from the former KGB. So Hello, Jim Jones. Good rap name as well. Jim Jones?
Hey there. Hey.
Oh my gosh, that's loud, but that's good. Hello.
Okay, are we lacking echo here? I don't want to.
That's good. No echo.
All right. Okay. Quick question. I don't speak enough Russian to be able to work in a professional setting that is only in Russian. So, yeah. But what is the situation with IT in general in Russia?
Yeah.
Like how saturated is the market for that labor?
To be honest, surprisingly, I've been told it's not. Okay, this may be hard to believe, but I've been told that despite the fact that there are a lot of like Russian like programmers and all that there's never enough. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a market for that. I would also think that because there are a lot of international companies that are still international, there may be a way to get your foot in the door. That's one of those. Oh my gosh, are you coming on video?
I am. I'm just gonna.
Oh my gosh,
this will be titillating. This is just titillating. I'm not gonna show not the whole thing. Just enough.
Whoa! Just enough. This is from Russia with Love. Wow.
Yeah, from Russia with Love. There you go.
All right. Wow, that's the kind of T-shirt that could get you in trouble depending on where you're at. But anyways, now I am getting the mute, so I'll shut you down there for just a sec. But anyways, yeah, this is tougher. The carpentry one was a little bit easier because I know people. The programming one, maybe, but I would say there's always a need for that. But with everything, I will say it once and I'll say it again. I've never met a foreigner here who became like really super successful. Well, outside we had kind of the English teaching world. You know, sometimes you can run an English teaching company and not know much. But it's really, really hard to get successful in Russia and not speak Russian well. You're always going to be on the outside. They're always going to be kind of looking at you out of the corner of their eye. Everything's going to be harder, and it's just not going to work. In fact, Daniel, who was just speaking, wrote to us, IT is definitely needed in Moscow. One thing that I wanted to bring up, too, is that Pete, also known as Falco, that's his nickname, he said that you can he probably likes those Nintendo characters. Remember Captain Falco? But you can make a U.S. customs declaration online very easily before your flight. Making the declaration when you arrive at the airport in Russia will take a little time, but should not be an issue. So apparently he's saying you could bring – see, I thought you couldn't leave America with more than 10,000 at all. Apparently he's saying you have to declare it. But, again, this is one of these things where I'm not quite sure how TSA is going to react to that. You know what I mean? Because you also have to remember that we're in like a phase of unfortunate U.S. history where we're in a non-logical phase. We are in a fear-based emotional phase. And even though you should have the right, in theory, to transport as much money as you like, and maybe if we're going to live in a weird world where it's like, okay, you have to declare to the government you're leaving with $50,000, but you show them, hey, I earned $50,000 legally from the bank, and they're like, okay, that might be the way in theory should go. But I could see some TSA agents being like, you're leaving the country with a lot of money. You're guilty of something. Guilty. Judge Dredd. That's it. Our friend, Captain Falco, could be killed by Judge Dredd, the TSA agent. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? So, Pete, this one thing where I obviously want people to come to Russia because I'm trying to make a project about that, but I'd be a little bit careful. And I don't have a case study of that. I do know an American guy who was living here who would go every couple of weeks and get 10 grand from America. Never had one problem. Okay. I don't know anyone who did this like big declaration thing, but I bet you might get in a lot of trouble when you come back too, maybe. So I don't know. That's something. Pete, if you're willing to risk it, you can be the guinea pig for that one. Bring $100,000 in cash in your drawers. Come on over here. The easiest way to get a Russian passport is to piss off the Biden administration to the point the FBI issues a political crime arrest warrant. To an extent, yeah. Because our buddy, John Mark Dugan, our good friend of our program, he came here as a political exile, and he kind of just got that political exile kind of right away, and then he got a residency permit, just like Snowden. It was amazing. So, yeah, you have to do the Snowden or John Mark Dugan life path. I'm the sucker. I'm the idiot. So basically you have to expose massive level government corruption within the United States, because both of them did that. That's why they came here. So, all right. Jim Jones wants to carry. Jim, did I answer your question at all correctly, even close?
Yeah, no, you helped. Definitely you helped. And maybe if it's possible, I don't know if I could talk to the other person you mentioned who kind of has more information about the field. One thing I could just mention about the transferring funds. I spoke to a lawyer in Belarus, and what that person told me was that it's still possible to transfer funds via SWIFT from I'm in Canada, from a Canadian bank. It's really up to the discretion of the financial institution in Canada. So,
well, dude, that's what Tinkoff basically said. Is they said here, let me I'll mute you again. So, one of the reasons I was so disappointed by Tinkoff is they are a non-sanctioned bank, and I was thinking that maybe then that would be the opportunity for people. They could go from a Western bank, well, obviously none of the Western banks are sanctioned, sending to Tinkoff, which is a non-sanctioned bank. But they were like, there's no guarantees, because the money doesn't go like from point A to point B. It tends to go along a few different points along that line. And if one of them is bad, the money's frozen. So be forewarned. Anyways, let's talk one last time to someone. Anyone else got any fears? We're kind of talking to the same people over and over again. Anyone here got some fears? Some of you are even brave enough to use your own face as your user icon, which I appreciate. Melissa is one of the brave people. You can see her face. Pete uses his own face. It's amazing. Anyone else got anything? It's the same people over and over again. Don't like the same people over and over again. That's not good. Anyways, we're going to end the day then on Exiled Canadian Patriot unless someone else new tells us what terrifies them. So did I answer your questions and comments well today, or did I suck? Hello.
You hit the nail on the head, Tim, as always.
All right.
I
try my best.
I don't have a question. It's just a comment to the rest of your viewers.
Yeah.
That people need to realize what you're doing here and how much work you've put into this. I've been following
an entire year of my life down the drain if this fails.
Well, and you know what? We appreciate what you're doing, and you know what? A lot of people have fears, and a lot of times stuff like this scares people, right? But you know what? You just have to relax. Everybody's going to, it's going to get done, and hopefully, we'll see each other in Moscow or in Russia.
Oh yeah, and that's why
I just wanted to thank you, because people don't realize how much work you've done.
Oh, well, thank you, dude. I appreciate that, man. Much appreciated, and thank you for helping out with the pipeline, as I call it. I appreciate that as well. So one thing, though, again, remember, guys, is that again with this whole thing, to make it clear, probably no one's watching by the end of this video. This is a long one, but just to be again clear, is that remember, if you are single and you get married to a Russian citizen, you can, like Daniel did, do the normal immigration process the normal way, and that is definitely on the table. And to be honest, that's much easier. Now, again, as I said at the beginning, I'll say at the end, on Monday, it's tentatively Monday, no guarantees, plans change. On Monday, I should go to the big fat ironically black. It's much like the PPG building in Pittsburgh, but cube shaped. The black cube of power, where the Moscow regional government sits. Ironically, it looks nothing on the inside like the outside. On the outside, black cube of power. On the inside, typical office. But anyways, I will go there, and I will, I'll put it this way. If the news was bad, they could say, Tim, we got denied. You've lost. So I assume the news is either neutral or good. Because sometimes we've gone to some meetings where it was more like, Tim, you thought everything was this way. Now it's this way. That doesn't mean the end of the project, but everything's changed. Start over. So we've had a few of those. Hopefully it won't be one of those, but I'm really excited to go. And on Monday, I should have more news about this whole project. But again, like I was saying, is like if you're someone who is, again, like single and, you're looking to get married at some point in your life, like, pretty much everyone is, the American Village is going to take a while still. Who knows what's going to happen, whereas getting married to Russian citizens, a much more guaranteed option. Like I said, considering the overwhelming majority of us want to have children and get married at some point in our lives, you're going to do that anyways. So you might as well combine some immigration into the mix or something. So, but anyways, so again, that's about it. We covered basically a lot of two people's kind of criticism or fears of the project, and we will get done right now. So anyways, I'm going to hit the road. This will be uploaded soon. And the live stream. It always tricks me.